Hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Kumar from Authentic Journeys. I often coach teams in India to communicate more effectively with their US colleagues and counterparts. And in these sessions, one of the kind of hot topics is how do I say no politely to a US American? So this could just be under the topic of how to say no, or negotiation as a wider topic. Now, some people get scared off by the topic title of negotiation, thinking, I'm not in sales, I'm not in marketing or any of those, high level things where I have to, barter a contract. So I'm not doing negotiation. In fact, I don't really train that many sales teams. I've trained some sales teams, but mostly I work with client-facing software development teams or other client-facing or customer-facing teams in India that have everyday conversations with customers, clients, and colleagues and stakeholders in the US. So those kind of negotiations are a little different, obviously. They can be anything from the difficult, we can't give this too early, let's stick with the normal deadline timeline, to I'm sorry, we are not able to add that feature into your product because of X, to the normal negotiating of setting a meeting time if it's not a regularly scheduled meeting. And there's plenty of other types of, conversations where there could be a difference of opinion, or both sides are thinking something different, and that's nothing but a negotiation. So how do you kind of overcome that, or how would you say no to any request or question that you might need to say no to? So many people I coach avoid saying no, and to some extent this not really, pertain to one culture as such. Americans also kind of avoid saying no, but there is a myth or a tendency for people to believe that Americans are more direct when saying no. There are definitely people in the US that are very direct when they say no, and they will say no directly, right on your face. But tend to be in a professional environment, people walk around the bush, they go around the bush, they don't get straight to the point. I have a lot of idioms on that. I can share that link with you on idioms about getting to the point or not getting to the point. So there are definitely people who often don't say no directly. And in fact, that tends to be the accepted norm, to not say no directly. So today I want to share with you some indirect ways of saying no. And I'm going to compare these to some that were found in an article from India Today. So actually, one of the people I was coaching in India, they shared this article with me. Now, of course, I'm making this video on July 31st, 2020, and this article from India Today is from April 2019. So let me share this article. What I'm going to do is share my screen and show you what's listed on the article through the screen share, and then kind of give you the American English translation if it's required, and also some of the context of what the US person might be thinking culturally speaking if they hear this type of no response. All right, so here you can see the article from India Today, 10 ways to say no politely, or 10 ways to politely say no. So I'm not going to read the article. You can come back to this later and look through it and read it in detail. What I'm going to do is stop at each of these images with words on it and share what it's written here, the Indian English sentence, and then kind of translate it to American English if it needs to. I'm honored, but I can't. So the I'm honored to do something is used in the US, but usually when people are saying yes. So for instance, the client and you are just starting a new relationship and you're kicking off the project. I'm so honored that you chose our company to partner with, to do this project with you. We're really excited to get this thing going, right? So you're starting something, you're saying yes. Normally the I'm honored to say no is too formal in American English, or it sounds kind of British. To me anyway, my American ear sounds, it sounds a little bit British. So I would maybe change this to, I'm really glad that you thought of me to do this particular project. and then add some context to it and follow it up with a question to get their feedback. So, I'm really glad that you thought of me to do this project or take on this additional responsibility. As you know, right now we have a tight deadline to, for the rollout of your product in a couple weeks. So I'm hoping that maybe if I'm able to help you, we can kind of revisit this, after the rollout when things have calmed down a little bit. What do you think about that? So actually, if you break that down, you can see they haven't said no and they haven't said yes. So, and they followed up with a question. You always want to follow up with a question to turn it back to the other person, so it doesn't sound like that you're just cutting off the conversation. All right, next. I wish there were two of me. Perfect. This is actually really good. Even in American English, I've heard people use this before. So again, the client is asking you to do something additional. Oh gosh, I really wish there were two of me. I would really love to help you with this project, Jennifer. However, as you know, we have that deadline. The rollout of our product is in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, there's only one of me right now, so I'm spread a little bit thin. Can we maybe discuss this, after the rollout happens? So it ended it with a question. And again, if you take that entire statement apart and you kind of rip it apart and analyze it, you'll see there's a yes and no answer, and they're both. So these are good ways to politely say no and not break your relationship and continue some kind of conversation about this in the future. Your client or a colleague may not even bring it up again. You don't know. Or you could bring it up again if you really are interested and you are actually really politely saying no, but really wanting to help out. Or you're somewhere in between. Unfortunately, now isn't a good time. So this is a little bit direct, in my opinion, depending on the context of the rest of the conversation. So the client is asking you to do something, in addition, and the rollout is coming up. So, unfortunately, might not be the best way to actually start it out in this case, especially if you want it to sound positive, because the word unfortunately is actually a little bit negative. So, but we could have unfortunately later on in the response, like, I really appreciate that you thought about me to actually help you with this project. However, unfortunately, as you know, might not be a good time, only because I'm kind of spread a little bit thin because we have the rollout coming in 2 weeks. So this idiom I used a couple times, spread a little bit thin, very common. It just means, I don't have a lot of time to do extra things right now. I'm pretty busy. Sorry, I'm booked into something else right now. So this would not be used at all. So I'm booked into something else. So we don't use the word booked if this is referring to being scheduled into another meeting or something like that. So let's say the client is asking, again, not for adding some new task, but maybe the client is asking for a meeting, right? So they are asking, can we meet tomorrow at 5 o'clock? And you're not available because you already have another meeting scheduled. You don't need to change everything around for your client on a normal manner. I mean, if it's an emergency situation, that's a different story. So you can say, actually 5 o'clock tomorrow, I have another meeting. It's actually scheduled with, a product lead for this particular project. Is it possible I can meet maybe a half an hour later? I think we'll be freed up by then. So, you're kind of mentioning why you're already booked up, but using some other phraseology for that. And then you're mentioning when you would be free and then asking them if that's okay with them or if that works for their schedule. Then they'll answer and continue the conversation with you. Damn, not able to fit this one in. So usually the word damn, and I even don't really like saying it, it's a little bit of a swear word. Some people don't think it's a swear word, but I personally wouldn't use this in an office situation. So I would say, oh no, or oh my gosh, it sounds so good, but I'm really not able to fit this into my schedule right now. But I'm not able to fit this one in. That phrase on its own is fine, but then you might need, an expression in the beginning, like oh no, or that sounds really good, but etc. And typically whatever comes after but to a US American is going to be negative. And that might not always be the same in India. Sometimes what comes after but is positive, is taken in a positive way in India. So you just want to keep that kind of cultural context in mind. And I have a good article about how to take the but out of your conversations, so to speak. Sadly, I have something else. Yeah, I think this is fine. So your colleague is asking you to meet at 5 o'clock tomorrow, and you're not available. You know, sadly, I know normally we're actually available at that time, but actually, sadly, tomorrow, I have another meeting with my manager, who's actually manager for this project as well. So is it possible we could meet either later on tomorrow evening or some other day? No, thank you, but it sounds lovely. Maybe next time. So lovely is more of British English. You don't really hear that in American English. That sounds good to me. Oh, that sounds awesome. Of course, depending on the context. Like if you were in the US and your colleague is asking you to go out on a weekend outing, maybe to a lake or a park or some fun event like maybe a baseball game. Oh my gosh, that sounds so awesome. I'd really like to go, but actually, you know, I'm a little tied up this weekend. No, thank you might be a little bit too direct to start it out with. You can maybe add that later if you need to as the conversation progresses. 8, number 8 here, I am not taking on anything else right now. This is a little bit too direct in my opinion, and it depends on the context of the conversation. Let's say the client is asking to have an additional meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock. You just had another meeting today. You're not really sure why this other meeting is required actually. So, you know, actually I'm pretty, you know, tied up right now. And is there any way we can maybe, you know, talk about this, extend this meeting we're on right now to continue talking about this, or maybe is it possible to take it offline and maybe, you know, talk about it through emails? So see, there's other formats, other platforms we can use to actually continue the conversation. Thank you for thinking. Thank you so much for thinking of me, but I can't. This is similar to the first one. Yeah, thank you so much for thinking of me, especially in relation to, you know, this project is something I'm really excited to work on. Fortunately, you know that, you know, the rollout is coming in 2 weeks. So maybe we can revisit this after that. Would that be okay with you? Obviously, these things would, you know, inspire conversation to ensue, and maybe other things will, you know, transpire as well. And the last one, I have another commitment. So this is good for your colleague. You're in the US and your colleague is asking you again to go out on a weekend outing or some kind of social event. You're a little bit nervous. You're not really sure how many people you want to be around. You're not familiar with the US culture yet. You could say, you know, I have some other things I have to get done this weekend. Maybe can we try another weekend? Or, you know, you can always blame it on a work commitment. Americans are fine with that typically, even over family commitments or personal commitments. You could say, you know, actually, we have that rollout coming in, you know, next Friday. Actually, it's not even a week from now. I'm a little bit worked up about that. I have a bunch of things I have to finish for that before Monday that I couldn't catch up with today. And plus, you know, of course, I have my family at home, so I have to take care of a couple errands and take my kids to a couple places this weekend. So unfortunately, I won't, you know, be able to make it this time, but I hope that you keep me in mind for next time. And also let me know about how it goes on Monday. I'll definitely catch up with you on Monday and ask you about it. So then, of course, on Monday, you can catch up with him or her and ask about how it went. So, you know, I'm going to stop the screen share here. I hope that some of these tips have been helpful to you. And you might be able to use them with your US counterparts or colleagues. So thanks for watching, and do follow at blog.authenticjourneys.info or come back to our, you know, YouTube page, Authentic Journeys YouTube page. I'll put the link somewhere around this video if you're not already on YouTube. So thanks for watching, and have a good day or evening, whatever the time of the day is for you. See you later. Bye.